The RMS Titanic was conceived at the height of the early 20th century, during a time when industrial power and technological progress shaped national pride. Built by Harland and Wolff in Belfast for the White Star Line, Titanic was designed to be the ultimate passenger ship, combining unprecedented size with unmatched luxury. Stretching nearly 900 feet long and weighing over 46,000 tons, it was the largest moving object ever constructed by human hands. Its interiors rivaled the finest hotels in Europe, featuring grand staircases, elegant dining rooms, swimming pools, and private promenades. For its creators and passengers alike, Titanic represented confidence in modern engineering and the belief that technology could conquer nature itself. Launched in 1911 and completed in early 1912, Titanic was equipped with advanced safety features for its time, including watertight compartments and remotely operated watertight doors. These innovations led to widespread claims that the ship was practically unsinkable, a label that, while never officially declared by its builders, was eagerly repeated by the press. Yet, Titanic carried lifeboats for only about half of the people on board, not because of oversight, but because regulations of the era did not require more. Safety standards were based on outdated assumptions, and the ship's sheer size had outpaced the laws meant to govern it. On April 10, 1912, Titanic departed Southampton on its maiden voyage to New York, stopping briefly in Cherbourg, France, and Queenstown, Ireland. On board were more than 2,200 passengers and crew, drawn from across the world and divided sharply by class. First-class passengers enjoyed extraordinary comfort and fine dining, while third-class passengers, many of them immigrants seeking new lives in America, traveled in simpler conditions deep within the ship. Despite these differences, all shared the same destination and, unknowingly, the same fate. As Titanic crossed the Atlantic, ice warnings were transmitted by other ships operating in the North Atlantic shipping lanes. Such warnings were common, and the presence of ice was not unusual for the season. Titanic continued at near full speed, a decision influenced by calm seas, clear skies, and confidence in the ship's design. On the night of April 14th, the ocean was eerily still, making it difficult to spot icebergs until it was too late. At 11:40 p.m., lookouts spotted an iceberg directly ahead. Despite swift attempts to turn and slow the ship, Titanic struck the iceberg along its starboard side. The collision itself seemed minor to many on board, producing only a faint shudder. But below the waterline, the damage was severe. The iceberg punctured the hull across multiple compartments, allowing water to flood in faster than the ship could contain it. Titanic was designed to remain afloat with up to 4 compartments flooded, but 6 were now compromised. The reality quickly became clear to the ship's designers and officers. Titanic would sink. Evacuation orders were given, but confusion and disbelief slowed the response. Many passengers were reluctant to leave the warmth and safety of the ship for small lifeboats suspended above the dark, freezing ocean. Lifeboats were launched partially filled, while others were delayed altogether. Crew members struggled to enforce evacuation procedures, and class divisions influenced access to the upper decks where most lifeboats were located. As the ship slowly tilted forward, the situation grew increasingly desperate. In the early hours of April 15th, the bow submerged beneath the water, while the stern rose high into the air. The ship's lights flickered and went out as power failed. Shortly after 2:20 a.m., Titanic broke apart and disappeared beneath the surface of the Atlantic. The water temperature was well below freezing, and most of those who entered it died within minutes. More than 1,500 lives were lost, making it one of the deadliest maritime disasters in peacetime history. Rescue arrived hours later in the form of the RMS Carpathia, which had responded to Titanic's distress calls and raced through dangerous ice fields to reach the scene. Carpathia rescued just over 700 survivors, many of them suffering from exposure and shock. The scale of the tragedy stunned the world. Newspapers across Europe and North America carried headlines of disbelief and mourning, while questions quickly arose about how such a disaster could have occurred. Subsequent investigations in both the United States and the United Kingdom revealed a series of failures rather than a single cause. Excessive speed, ignored ice warnings, insufficient lifeboats, poor evacuation procedures, and outdated safety regulations all played critical roles. The myth of Titanic's invincibility encouraged complacency, and the disaster exposed the consequences of prioritizing prestige and profit over preparedness. Yet, from the tragedy came lasting change. International maritime laws were reformed, requiring ships to carry enough lifeboats for all passengers and crew. The International Ice Patrol was established to monitor ice conditions in the North Atlantic, and radio communication standards were improved to ensure distress signals would never again go unanswered. Titanic became a catalyst for modern maritime safety, reshaping how the world approached travel at sea. Decades later, in 1985, the wreck of Titanic was discovered nearly 2.5 miles beneath the ocean's surface. Resting in two main sections, the ship remains preserved in darkness and cold, slowly being reclaimed by the sea. Artifacts recovered from the site have brought renewed attention to the human stories behind the disaster, reminding the world that Titanic was not just a ship, but a reflection of the people, values, and ambitions of its time. The real story of the RMS Titanic is not simply one of an iceberg and a sinking ship. It is a story of human confidence and its limits, of social inequality laid bare in moments of crisis, and of lessons learned through unimaginable loss. More than a century later, Titanic endures not because it was unsinkable, but because its legacy changed the course of history and continues to warn us of the cost of believing we have mastered forces far greater than ourselves.